Imagine a single mom losing her job, her home, everything, just for feeding a stranger. Michael Jordan. One rainy night in Charlotte, Shanice dares to defy the rules for a latecomer, clueless it's MJ, until she's fired at dawn. But what if that heartbreak unleashes a miracle too wild to believe? This isn't basketball, it's a gut-wrenching comeback that shakes a whole city. You won't turn away, this'll break you open. Who's the one person who showed you kindness when you needed it most? Drop their name in the comments, I want to hear your story. Smash like and subscribe to Motivation for Success, this story's gonna hit hard, let's go. It was nearly midnight at Jerry's Diner, a small, dim beacon in a city battered by a relentless storm. The rain lashed the roof with a fury that seemed personal, as if each drop were a vendetta against the world outside. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, barely cutting through the gloom that clung to every corner. Shanice Williams, a single mother whose life had become a tapestry of sacrifice and relentless hope, stood behind the counter. Her hands, calloused and trembling from a brutal 10-hour shift, worked methodically as she refilled sugar jars, each measured scoop a quiet defiance against a day that had already worn her down. Her muscles screamed in protest with every movement, as if they too were pleading for a reprieve, but her eyes, soft and determined, remained fixed on a memory that outshone even the harsh neon glare: destiny. Destiny, her 8-year-old daughter with deep brown eyes that still held the sparkle of hope and wonder, had filled their modest apartment with laughter and dreams each morning. That morning, over a rushed breakfast of cereal and whispered promises, Destiny had said, "Coach says I'm good, Mama, really, really good." Those words had been a burst of light in the darkness, a fragile promise of a future where basketball camp, priced at an impossible $500, could transform her world. And though the price tag loomed like a towering, insurmountable mountain, Shanice's resolve was unwavering. She would crawl through fire, weather the fiercest storms, and sacrifice her every comfort for the sake of her daughter's smile, the one beacon of light in a life overshadowed by relentless bills and shattered dreams. As the storm outside intensified, the din of the rain was abruptly punctuated by the sharp jingle of the diner's doorbell, a sound that sliced through the rhythmic drumming of the rain like a sudden chord in a symphony of despair. In walked a man whose presence immediately shifted the charged atmosphere of the diner. He towered at 6'6", his figure cloaked in an aura of quiet mystery. A baseball cap was pulled low over his eyes, and though his face was partly hidden, those tired eyes shone with a depth that spoke of untold stories. In that moment, as his eyes met hers for just a fleeting second, Shanice felt an inexplicable pull, an echo of something familiar and poignant, as if the weight of his unspoken sorrows mirrored her own. Her boss, Brad, had laid down his rules long ago: no customers after 11:30 p.m., the kitchen shuts down, and there were no exceptions. His voice, as rigid and unyielding as stone, still echoed in her mind: "Rules keep us safe, Shanice." But when she looked into his stranger's eyes, heavy with a quiet, sorrowful burden, something inside her rebelled against the rigid confines of those rules. They reminded her too much of nights spent alone, crying over Destiny's patched-up sneakers and the impossibility of making ends meet. Without thinking twice, her voice softened into a tender command as she reached for a menu. "Come on in," she said, coaxing him to a table in the far corner away from the rain-smeared windows. "Order quick, though, the kitchen's shutting down." He offered her a smile that cut through the lingering gloom like a ray of sunshine piercing storm clouds. "Thanks, I just need a quiet spot," he replied, his tone low and reassuring. As she guided him to the secluded corner, she couldn't help but notice how he kept his head bowed, his shoulders slumped as if he were trying to vanish into the shadows, a ghost, perhaps, seeking refuge from a relentless past. A small thought flickered through her mind: maybe he was a ball player. After all, Charlotte was awash with athletes these days, fleeting spirits of sweat and fleeting glory passing through the diner like phantoms of a bygone era. Returning to the counter with a practiced smile and pen poised over her notepad, Shanice asked softly, "What'll it be?" Her voice, though weary, carried an undercurrent of warmth. "Black coffee," he replied, his deep, gentle tone steadying her frayed nerves like an anchor in a turbulent sea. "And whatever you recommend." With a forced grin that concealed a deeper, aching sorrow, Shanice quickly scribbled down her suggestion, "Chicken and waffles." "My destiny swears they're the best, might be biased 'cause her mama makes 'em." The man chuckled, a warm, familiar sound that seemed to awaken a tender memory buried deep within her soul. "Sounds perfect. You got kids?" he inquired, his eyes crinkling in a way that hinted at kindness beyond measure. "Just destiny," she replied, a bittersweet note coloring her tone. "She's 8, basketball crazy, dreaming of playing in the WNBA someday." His eyes, shadowed under the brim of his cap, shone with genuine admiration as he murmured, "Good dreams to have." In that moment, as if the weight of his simple words mingled with the quiet hum of the rain, Shanice felt the echo of a forgotten truth, that even when the world seemed intent on breaking her spirit, there were still people who could see the light flickering inside her. Driven by that spark, Shanice hustled to the kitchen, her sneakers squeaking against the wet linoleum floor. The familiar clamor of the kitchen greeted her, a symphony of clanging utensils and Jerry's grumbling as he prepared to shut down for the night. Jerry, the cook whose weathered apron told stories of countless late shifts and enduring struggles, was a constant rock in her turbulent life. His gray hair, wild as a storm cloud, and his rough, gravelly voice belied a heart that had softened over the years, bending easily when Shanice's earnest plea reached him. "Last order, special guy," she pleaded, her voice raw with an unnameable hope, her eyes wide with the silent desperation of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. With a resigned sigh that carried more love than complaint, Jerry fired up the old waffle iron. As the sweet aroma of freshly cooked chicken and waffles began to mingle with the persistent patter of rain, Shanice took a moment to count her tips, $1.83 in crumpled bills and loose coins. Each dollar was more than currency, it was a brick in Destiny's future, a tangible reminder of her relentless pursuit to provide something more than just survival, a chance at a basketball camp, a dream waiting to be realized. Meanwhile, the mysterious stranger, sitting by the window, sipped his black coffee slowly. His eyes, dark and reflective, wandered out onto the empty, rain-soaked street. In that quiet moment, his calm demeanor radiated a rare peace, a stillness that seemed to suit the chaos in her world. Shanice had seen all kinds of customers pass through the diner before. Cocky athletes with swaggering airs, rude celebrities tossing tips with careless arrogance, each one had their own story, their own shadows. But this man was different. His presence carried an intangible weight, as if he harbored scars too deep to show, and those scars resonated with the silent battles in her own heart. When his plate of chicken and waffles arrived, she carried it to his table with a flourish and a dash of extra hot sauce, her voice light despite the heaviness in her soul. "Best in Charlotte, hot off the press," she announced, a statement that was part pride, part desperate hope to mask the pain of her own burdens. He smiled, his gaze softening as he read the name tag pinned to her uniform. "Thanks, Shanice, you didn't have to do this so late." In that simple exchange, she felt a surge of pride mingled with vulnerability. "Everyone deserves a meal and some peace, no matter the hour," she murmured, her voice cracking slightly on the word mama. The mention brought with it a cascade of memories, the gentle guidance of her own mother, who had raised her alone with endless sacrifices, whose own battle with cancer had ended too soon. That lesson, that fierce love, had been stitched into her very soul, to see the person, not the rules, in every moment of need. Her words seemed to echo in the silent space between them. He nodded thoughtfully, as if her heartfelt admission sank into him more deeply than she could have imagined. "Your mama taught you right. Destiny's lucky," he said, his tone imbued with a rare tenderness. Shanice's eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "I'm the lucky one. She's the reason I wake up each day." Even as the night pressed in, every small act of kindness felt like a rebellion, a way to honor the legacy of love passed down to her by the woman who had once whispered, "Help where you can, baby, it's how we stay human." As the hours wore on, Shanice continued her tireless work. The clink of dishes and the hum of the coffee machine became a fragile rhythm, a fragile cadence against the relentless storm outside. Yet, amidst the steady routine of cleaning tables and counting tips, her eyes frequently darted to the security camera mounted in the corner, a silent sentinel capturing every moment. Brad, ever the enforcer of the diner's inflexible rules, would review these recordings each morning with the intensity of a hawk. And Shanice knew that one wrong move could be the last, the final note in a symphony of sacrifice. Outside, the mysterious man continued to eat, each bite punctuating the low murmur of the rain. There was a quiet dignity in the way he savored his meal, a serene acceptance that seemed to say he was not merely a transient figure, but someone carrying a deep, unspoken story. When he finished his plate, he beckoned her over with a gentle wave of his hand, steady and reassuring where her own hands trembled. "Your daughter's right," he said softly, his voice carrying the weight of unspoken gratitude. "That was the best chicken and waffles I've ever had." In that moment, as he reached into his wallet and pulled out a generous sum, 5 crisp $100 bills neatly stacked, Shanice felt a surge of hope and disbelief. "Keep the change," he said simply, as if the money were but a token of something far more profound. "And thanks for the kindness, it means more than you know." Standing there as his footsteps merged with the howling wind outside, Shanice's breath caught in her throat. In a single heartbeat, that $500 was no longer just money, it was a lifeline, a promise that Destiny's dreams might yet come true. With trembling hands and a heart overflowing with a fierce, aching joy, she locked up the diner at 12:30 a.m. The cold glass door pressed against her forehead as she whispered into the raging storm, "Mama, we did it, I kept your light alive." The tears that slid down her cheeks were not just for the pain of the night, but for the hope that now shone so brightly against all odds. The following morning, an alarm shattered the fragile silence at 6 a.m. Shanice's feet, heavy with exhaustion, carried her through the early hours with a newfound strength that glowed like embers in her soul. The memory of that life-changing $500 tip painted a smile across her worn face, a gentle reminder that hope could be found even in the darkest hours. "Destiny, breakfast time," she called, her voice lighter than it had been in months, a melody emerging from the ashes of another grueling night. Soon, Destiny appeared, her basketball uniform crumpled from sleep but her spirit unbowed. With an imaginary ball dribbling at her side and a grin that could melt the harshest winter, she declared, "Mama, Coach says I might be team captain, he saw my jump shot." In that moment, Shanice gathered Destiny in a tight, heartfelt embrace, a hug that squeezed the air from her lungs as her heart swelled with pride and fierce love. "That's my girl," she whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of joy and vulnerability, "and guess what? Basketball camp is happening, a kind stranger left us a huge tip last night." Destiny's eyes lit up like stars emerging through the darkness of a midnight sky, and the weight of endless, sleepless nights seemed to lift just a little as they began preparing chocolate chip pancakes together. Laughter filled the small kitchen, mingling with the aroma of pancakes and the sweetness of a promise renewed. As Shanice shaped a lopsided basketball out of the batter, her fingers brushed through Destiny's soft curls. "You're my everything, baby, you know that," she murmured, the tenderness in her voice laced with unspoken memories of a mother whose love had transcended every hardship. After breakfast, as Destiny skipped off to school, her ponytail bouncing in time with every joyful step, Shanice felt the weight of the previous night settle over her once more. With the generous $500 burning quietly in her pocket, she headed back to Jerry's for her day shift. But fate, as ever, was not done testing her resilience. As she opened the diner's door, Brad was already waiting, arms crossed and his face a thundercloud darker than the storm of the previous night. The glow of the security footage on his screen showed a timestamp of 11:47 p.m., a silent accusation etched in digital record. "My office, now," he snapped, his voice hard and unyielding as he pointed a cold, accusing finger in her direction. "Explain this, rules say no customers after 11:30. Shanice, though trembling with inner turmoil, stood tall. "He needed a meal, Brad, it wasn't hurting anyone," she said steadily, even as her voice trembled with both defiance and despair. "Rules are rules." Brad barked, his tone merciless as he jabbed at the screen until it flickered. His face twisted with a disdain that stung deeper than any physical blow. In a desperate, raw outburst born of the relentless pressure of her daily life, Shanice blurted out, "He wasn't, he was Michael Jordan." The words spilled out like a final plea, a declaration of the extraordinary kindness she had dared to extend. Brad's laugh, cold and jagged, sliced through the fragile air. "Sure, and I'm LeBron James," he sneered. "This is it, Shanice, hand over your apron. You're done." The room spun as Shanice's hands, once so steady and full of hope, shook uncontrollably as she removed her name tag. 8 years of sweat, smiles, and sacrifices were crumbling away like fragile paper, the cold metal of the tag feeling like a betrayal against her very soul. "I've got a daughter to feed," she pleaded, tears scorching her cheeks, as the promise of Destiny's basketball camp faded into the harsh reality of mounting bills and shattered dreams. Brad's voice was unyielding, a final, merciless decree, should have thought of that before playing hero. With that, he turned her back on her past, leaving her to step out into the storm with a heart hollowed by both grief and determination. Stumbling to her car, Shanice's sobs mingled with the unrelenting rain. Each tear that fell was a testament to the price she had paid for doing what felt undeniably right. And as she reached her car, another twist of fate awaited, a phone buzz that cut through the desolation like a lifeline thrown into dark waters. An unknown number appeared on her screen, and with a shaky, "Hello," she answered. "Is this Shanice Williams?" "I'm with Michael Jordan. He wants to meet you at the Hornets office in 30 minutes, the voice said, calm yet filled with urgency. Her heart pounded as if caught in a relentless drumbeat. With a mixture of fear and a glimmer of hope, she responded, I can make it." Glancing back at the diner through a rain-blurred window, she saw Brad's smirking silhouette, a final reminder of the night's injustice, and felt a spark of defiant determination ignite within her. "What's this about?" she asked, voice wavering. "Mr. Jordan will explain," came the terse reply, and in that moment, every question, every doubt, was swallowed by the roaring promise of a new beginning. Driving downtown, Shanice's thoughts raced faster than the headlights slicing through the dark, wet streets. Each mile was a journey between despair and hope, a journey underscored by her mother's long-ago words, "Kindness comes back, baby, just wait." Her hands gripped the wheel until her knuckles were white, and tears blurred the road ahead as she tried to reconcile the events of the previous night with the possibility of a brighter future. Every bump on the road felt symbolic, a reminder that sometimes, the path to redemption was as rough as the pavement beneath her tires. Arriving at the Hornets' towering office building, Shanice parked her battered Toyota and gazed upward at the glimmering glass facade, a world so different from the diner she'd known, yet promising an escape from the relentless cycle of struggle. Inside the grand marble lobby, her sneakers squeaked against the polished floor as she stepped forward, each echo a mix of trepidation and newfound resolve. The guard at the desk, noting her trembling hands and the determination in her eyes, handed her a badge marked 43rd floor. The elevator ride upward was a quiet confrontation with her own reflection, a montage of worn-out shoes, red-rimmed eyes, and a soul tempered by endless nights of hardship and the promise of a better tomorrow. When the doors finally opened, Patricia, a sharply dressed receptionist with eyes soft as a mother's love, greeted her with a simple offer of water. "Yes, please," Shanice managed, her throat dry but her heart beating with a renewed rhythm of hope. Beyond the receptionist's desk, Jerry's diner had become a distant memory, a fading echo of a life she was desperate to leave behind. Standing in the corridor, her mind whirled with questions and uncertainty. What was waiting for her on the 43rd floor? Had all the sacrifices, the tears, and the endless nights of labor finally paved the way for a miracle? And then, the door swung open to reveal him, Michael Jordan, unadorned and real, his presence cutting through the tension like a beacon of redemption. "Shanice, thanks for coming," he said, his voice deep and resonant, each syllable carrying the weight of unspoken stories. She steadied herself, her voice raw but resolute as she replied, "I hope it's okay that I didn't say I knew you last night, you wanted quiet." His smile, gentle yet imbued with a fierce glimmer of truth, reassured her. "That's exactly why you're here," he said. "I've been watching you at Jerry's for a month, watching you. I need someone real for my youth foundation, someone who chooses kindness over rules, even when it costs them everything." For a long, breathless moment, the world narrowed to just the two of them, a fragile space where words became bridges and shared pain was the seed of something far greater. "Me? But I just got fired," Shanice said, her voice breaking with the raw honesty of a woman who had given her all. "That's why," MJ continued, his tone as steady and sure as a coach's rallying cry. "You helped me when you didn't have to. You saw someone in need, and you made the choice to be kind." His words, simple yet transformative, broke through the layers of doubt that had haunted her for so long. In that moment, as tears welled in her eyes and her heart pounded with both grief and hope, Shanice met his gaze. "I did it because I was tired, hungry, because everyone deserves kindness," she said, voice trembling with both defiance and tenderness. "My mama always said to see the person, not the clock, and she would have done the same for anyone in need." Her confession was a tribute to a past filled with love, sacrifice, and the enduring belief that even in the darkest moments, humanity could shine its brightest light. MJ's expression softened further, his eyes warm with genuine admiration. "That's what I needed to hear. Heart like yours is worth more than any trophy or accolade," he said, sliding a card across the desk. The card read, "Director of Community Outreach, Jordan Youth Foundation," its gold letters a testament to a new beginning. "I'm no college grad," she whispered, her voice catching as she hovered her trembling hands over the card. "I'm just a waitress." But he shook his head firmly. "You're not just anything," he insisted. "You've got a heart and a grit that degrees can't teach. You see people, not just paychecks. That's rarer than any trophy I've ever won." As Patricia returned with a folder detailing a new life, salary, health insurance, and free youth basketball programs, the magnitude of the moment hit her like a tidal wave. She flipped through the numbers, her eyes misty with disbelief and hope. This was enough to rewrite her story, to lift Destiny from a life of patched-up dreams to one with real opportunities on gleaming courts. "Take it home, talk to Destiny," MJ said softly, as if he knew that every dream she had once dared to imagine was now within reach. "Why me?" she choked, her voice a mere whisper, tears spilling over as Destiny's laughter echoed in her mind like a promise of a better tomorrow. "You didn't see me as Michael Jordan, you saw a man in need of a meal," he explained gently, leaning closer so that his eyes locked with hers. "That's real kindness, not for fame or gain, but from the soul. That's what my foundation needs, and that's what these kids need." In that tender exchange, the weight of every sacrifice, every tear, and every sleepless night seemed to coalesce into a single, undeniable truth: kindness had the power to transform not only one life, but entire communities. Clutching the folder to her chest, Shanice felt as if the very air around her was charged with possibility. "This is too much, I don't deserve it," she whispered, a sorrowful, trembling acknowledgement of the magnitude of her journey. MJ's voice, imbued with gentle conviction, replied, "It's just the start, Shanice. You deserve more than you know." In that quiet moment, amid the echoes of dreams long deferred and a future just beginning to take shape, a silent promise was made, a promise that every act of kindness would return to her in ways she could scarcely imagine. For a few lingering moments, the only sound was the soft hum of the building and the quiet resolve in her heart. Then, with MJ's parting words still echoing in her ears, Shanice stepped back into the corridor of possibility, her spirit buoyed by the knowledge that her life was about to change forever. Every word he had spoken, every gentle assurance, was a reminder that the smallest acts of compassion could ripple outward and ignite hope in even the darkest of times. And so, with trembling hope and renewed determination, Shanice began the long, winding journey back, a journey that would carry her from the hardships of the diner to a future filled with promise, for herself and for Destiny. The memory of that stormy night, the taste of hot coffee and chicken and waffles, and the unexpected generosity of a stranger, all merged into a single, transformative moment. A moment where rules were broken not out of recklessness, but out of a fierce, unyielding love for a daughter and a belief in the power of kindness. Every step of Shanice's journey was marked by small miracles and big risks. In the echo of every footstep and the clink of every dish washed late into the night, there was a testament to the indomitable spirit of a mother determined to keep hope alive. And now, as she navigated the hallways of a new future, she carried with her the silent promise of every person who had ever shown her kindness. That promise was not just a balm for her battered soul, it was a rallying cry for everyone who had ever dared to defy the rules in order to help another, even when the cost was everything. As Shanice left the Hornets building with the new folder clutched tightly in her arms, her mind raced with memories of the long, painful nights at Jerry's diner, the sound of rain against the roof, the soft hum of the coffee machine, and the faces of customers who had come and gone. Among them, the memory of that one quiet, mysterious man lingered like a secret beacon. A man who had recognized her heart, who had seen beyond the veneer of tired eyes and calloused hands, and who had given her the opportunity to rebuild her life from the ground up. In the days and weeks that followed, Shanice embraced her new role with a determination that surprised even herself. Every challenge became a stepping stone, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there was a spark waiting to ignite a fire of transformation. She used her newfound position not only to provide for Destiny, but also to help others who, like her, had been pushed to the brink by life's unyielding demands. With each passing day, she shared her story, a story of heartbreak, sacrifice, and the quiet strength of kindness that defied every rule. And as the months turned into a new season of hope, Destiny began to flourish. The girl who had once clung to dreams of basketball glory now found herself surrounded by mentors, friends, and a community that believed in her potential. Together, mother and daughter began to heal, their lives intertwined with the promise of a brighter future. Each smile, each victory on the court, was a testament to the resilience of a spirit that had weathered every storm. Shanice's story, born out of a single, defiant act of kindness, soon spread beyond the walls of the diner. It became a symbol, a powerful reminder that even when life seemed determined to break you, one small act of compassion could ignite a transformation that reached far beyond the confines of a single night. People from every corner of the city began to share their own stories of rebellion, of breaking rules for the sake of love. And in each of those stories, Shanice's quiet heroism shone through, a beacon of hope that lit the way for countless others. As she walked the streets of Charlotte, now with a sense of purpose that belied the hardships of her past, Shanice carried the weight of her journey with a humble pride. The diner was gone, replaced by memories of long, rain-soaked nights and whispered promises. In its place, a new chapter had begun, one where every sacrifice had paved the way for a life filled with genuine opportunities and unbreakable bonds. So, as you read these words and feel the depth of Shanice's struggle and triumph, ask yourself, who was the one person who showed you kindness when you needed it most? Who was the light in your darkest hour? Drop their name in the comments, share that spark of connection and let the world know that even the smallest act of compassion can change everything. Remember, every story like Shanice starts with a single, courageous step, a moment where love and kindness break through the hardest barriers. Let her journey remind you that even when the world seems cold and unforgiving, a gentle smile, a warm meal, or a kind word can ignite a miracle. And as you reflect on your own life, think about the times when you chose to defy the rules, to see the person beyond the problem, and to extend your heart to someone in need. In a world that often demands conformity and adherence to rigid rules, Shanice's story is a testament to the fact that compassion knows no boundaries. It is a force that transforms lives, rewrites destinies, and, above all, creates a future where hope can flourish against all odds. So here's to every kind soul who has ever dared to make a difference, to every act of bravery that defied the status quo, and to every moment when the human spirit triumphed over despair. Shanice's journey is not just a story, it's an invitation for all of us to look within, to recognize our own strength, and to believe that no matter how dark the night, the dawn is always waiting to break. Now, let this story of passion, sacrifice, and undeniable resilience resonate with you. Let it be a reminder that even the smallest act of kindness can build bridges, mend broken hearts, and create a future full of promise. Share your story in the comments, and together, let's celebrate the power of compassion that transforms lives, one heart at a time. Who was the one person who showed you kindness when you needed it most? Drop their name in the comments. Let's share our stories and remind each other that no act of compassion is ever in vain. And if this story stirred something deep within you, if it broke you open and filled you with a hope so fierce it dares to defy the darkest night, then hit that like button and subscribe to Motivation for Success. We're here to remind you that every setback is a setup for an extraordinary comeback, and that every act of kindness has the power to change the world.